It was the first week of spring, the 1 week every farmer in the county circles on the calendar. The soil was perfect, the air just right, and every hour mattered. This was planting season, the week where long days and longer nights could mean the difference between a good year and a bad one. That morning I was in the field, guiding my old but reliable John Deere tractor across the freshly tilled rows, dropping seed with precision that had been passed down through 3 generations. To me, this wasn't just farming, it was legacy. My family's blood, sweat, and tears were in this land, and nothing mattered more than keeping it running. But of course, that's when she showed up. Karen. The self-proclaimed HOA president, though we were miles from any suburban neighborhood. She pulled up in her shiny SUV, rolled down her window, and shouted across the field like she owned the place. "Excuse me, that tractor is an eyesore. It doesn't meet community standards. I'm calling a tow truck right now." I thought she was joking. Who tries to tow a tractor? Out here, that would be like trying to tow the town water tower. But Karen wasn't laughing. She was on her phone, snapping pictures, pacing the edge of the field with her clipboard. "Mum," I said, wiping the dust off my hands as I walked over, "this tractor is my livelihood. You can't tow farm equipment. It's literally planting season." Karen smirked, pen scratching across her paper. "Rules are rules. Vehicles can't be left parked on visible property lines. And that thing," she jabbed her finger toward my tractor, "is parked in plain sight," I tried to explain. "It's not parked, it's working. This is a farm, not your HOA cul-de-sac." But she didn't care. Her voice got louder, angrier. "I don't care what you call it. That junk is an eyesore. Either move it or I'll move it for you." And just like that, I realized this wasn't about rules at all. This was about control. Karen wanted a fight, and she had no idea what kind of fight she'd just picked, because while she was threatening to tow my tractor, I was already planning what to do when she left her car sitting in the wrong place. Karen wasn't bluffing. Within the hour, I heard the growl of a diesel engine coming down the county road. Sure enough, a tow truck rolled up, its boom arm already rattling as if it was eager to snatch something off the ground. The driver looked confused the second he saw what Karen had called him out here for. He leaned out the window, squinting at my John Deere in the middle of the field. Ma'am," he said, "that's a tractor." Karen folded her arms, chin lifted like a queen addressing her subject. "I don't care what it is. It's a vehicle. It's parked in plain sight. And it violates our community standards. Tow it." The driver scratched his head. "Ma'am, my rig's not even equipped to haul something that size. You'd need a flatbed hauler and about 4 chains the size of your leg. And even then, why would I tow farm equipment off farmland?" Karen's voice shot up an octave. "Because I'm the HOA president and I said so. He's in violation. And if you don't do your job, I'll have you reported for negligence." At that point, I couldn't help myself. I leaned against my tractor, arms crossed, and said, "You're really wasting this man's time, Karen. This isn't a parked car. It's a working machine. Besides, there is no HOA out here. You've got no authority over me, my land, or my tractor." Her face turned crimson. "Don't you dare talk back to me. Everything within sight of the lake falls under my jurisdiction. This machinery lowers property values. I want it gone." The tow truck driver gave me a look, the kind that said he'd seen this nonsense before. "Sir, don't worry. I'm not touching your tractor. She can scream all she wants, but this is private property, and unless a sheriff tells me otherwise, I'm not lifting a finger." That only sent Karen further off the rails. She stomped over to her SUV, grabbed her phone, and started dialing. Again, this time not the tow company, but the sheriff's office. She was ranting into the phone, yelling about illegal vehicles and farmland eyesores. While she was distracted, I noticed something. Her shiny SUV, leather interior, spotless paint, vanity plates, was parked halfway on the edge of my freshly tilled rows. The very rows I'd spent all morning preparing for seed. An idea sparked. If Karen thought she could dictate what stayed and what went on my land, maybe it was time she learned the hard way, that farmland isn't just decoration. Out here, the soil decides what gets planted, and it looked like her car had just volunteered. The sheriff never showed up, not right away at least. Karen was still pacing by her SUV, waving her phone around like it was a sword of authority. She was too busy shouting into it to notice what I was doing. I climbed back onto my John Deere, fired up the engine, and eased forward. The rumble of... The machine cut through her voice, but she kept barking into the phone, complaining about uncooperative officers and rural lawbreakers. That's when I lined the tractor's plow right behind her shiny SUV. The tow truck driver stayed, where he was, arms folded, a smirk tugging at his lips. He knew exactly what I was about to do. "Oh boy," he muttered, "this is going to be good." With one slow, deliberate motion, I dropped the plow into the soil. The earth split open like a zipper, a neat trench forming just behind her rear. Tires. Karen spun around, eyes widening. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" I kept my voice steady, calm. "Planting season, Karen. Everything in these rows gets planted, and since you decided to park in my field..." I throttled forward another few feet, the trench stretching longer. "Well, looks like your car just got added to the crop rotation." The tow truck driver chuckled out loud. Karen, on the other hand, nearly short-circuited. "You can't do that. That's destruction of property. That's illegal." I stopped the tractor just short of her bumper and raised the plow again. "Illegal?" I said, climbing down. "You tried to tow my tractor in the middle of planting season. That's interfering with agricultural operations. Pretty sure that's the real crime here." She stamped her foot, pointing wildly at me. "You're going to jail for this. Do you hear me? Jail!" But I wasn't finished. I walked over to the seed drill, loaded it up, and in plain view of Karen, I pulled it behind the tractor, right past her SUV. The machine rattled and hissed, dropping neat little rows of corn, seed into the soil surrounding her car. By the time I made one full loop, her SUV was sitting dead center in what now looked like the start of a planting bed. The tow truck driver burst out laughing. "Man, you really did it. You planted her car." Karen's face twisted into something between rage and horror. You can't plant a car." I shrugged. "Out here, we plant what's in the field. And right now, that's your vehicle. Maybe by fall you'll have a nice harvest of SUVs." That was the moment she realized she'd lost control. Her threats weren't working, her phone calls weren't being taken seriously, and now her precious car was symbolically and literally part of the farmland she'd tried to boss around. The balance of power had shifted. For once, she wasn't the one dictating the rules. She was standing in the dirt, red-faced, surrounded by laughter and rows of seed, realizing that her little HOA world had no weight here. But what she didn't know was that things were about to get even worse for her. Because just as I finished my loop, a county deputy's cruiser rolled down the gravel road, lights flashing. Karen's eyes lit up. She thought salvation had arrived. She had no idea it wasn't. The county deputy's cruiser crunched onto the gravel shoulder, lights spinning, but siren off. Karen straightened her blouse, smoothed her hair, and marched toward the car like she'd just summoned the cavalry. "Officer, officer!" she screeched, waving both arms. "Arrest this man immediately. He's destroying private property and threatening me with heavy machinery." The deputy stepped out, sunglasses glinting in the afternoon sun. He was a tall man, built like he knew his way around farm work himself. His boots hit the ground heavy as he walked up. "All right, what's going on here?" Karen wasted no time. She pointed both hands at me, voice shrill. "He tried to bury my SUV. Look at the ground. He's planting crops all around it. This man is deranged." The deputy turned to me. "Sir," I stayed calm. "Deputy, I've been farming this land since sunup." She pulled onto my property, tried to tow my tractor out of the middle of my own field, and now she's blocking my planting rows. So I did what any farmer would do. I planted my rows. Her car just happened to be in the way. Karen gasped like she'd been slapped. "That is a lie. He's vandalizing my property, and you need to tow that tractor immediately." The deputy tilted his head, looking past her at the SUV sitting neatly between two furrows. Then he glanced at the tow truck driver, who was leaning against his rig, arms folded, trying not to laugh. "Sir," the deputy asked him, "you called in for this?" The driver shook his head. "No, she did. Said there was an illegal vehicle on her property. I showed up and it was his tractor. Now she's insisting I tow it. I told her no way. Then she parks her SUV right in his rows and..." He couldn't hold it in anymore. "And he planted around it." The deputy raised his eyebrows, then turned back to Karen. "Ma'am, you parked your vehicle in an active farm field during planting season?" Karen stomped her foot. "It doesn't matter. This eyesore tractor lowers property values for everyone. Near the lake, it needs to be removed. I am the HOA president, and I demand you enforce the law. The deputy slid his sunglasses down, looked her dead in the eye and said flatly, "Ma'am, there is no HOA jurisdiction out here. This is agricultural land, and he has every legal right to operate machinery on it. The only one trespassing right now is you." Her jaw dropped. "Trespassing! Trespassing!" "Correct," the deputy said. "You drove onto his property without permission, attempted to interfere with agricultural work and called in a false report. That's trespassing and misuse of emergency services." Karen turned beet red. That's ridiculous. He tried to plant my car." The deputy chuckled, shaking his head. "Looks to me like he planted his field. Your car just happens to be sitting in the middle of it. That's on you." The tow truck driver finally burst into laughter. "Guess you're part of the crop rotation now, lady." Karen screamed in frustration, clutching at her hair. She lunged toward the deputy, finger jabbing the air. "You don't understand. I'm the victim. Arrest him now." But the deputy didn't move toward me. Instead, he reached for his cuffs. "Ma'am, you're done here. Turn around." Karen froze. "You can't be serious. You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president." The deputy shook his head slowly. "Out here, that doesn't mean a thing." And just like that, Karen's world collapsed. Karen stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The deputy repeated, firm this time, "Ma'am, turn around. Hands behind your back." The tow truck driver was grinning ear to ear, phone out now, recording the entire scene. "Nobody's going to believe this unless I get it on video," he said. Karen snapped out of her trance, shrieking, "You can't do this. I'm the president of the HOA. I make the rules. I'm important." The deputy calmly clicked the cuffs over her wrists. "Not here, you're not. Out here, the law doesn't bend for HOA tantrums." She tried to twist around to glare at me. "You'll regret this. You and your stupid tractor. I'll sue you for every penny you have." I just leaned on my tractor tire and smiled. "Well, Karen, if you're going to sue me, I'd suggest you hire a good lawyer. You'll need one after you get charged for trespassing, filing a false report, and trying to tow a farmer's tractor in planting season." Her eyes went wide. She looked at the deputy for support, but he didn't budge. The more she struggled, the more pathetic she looked. The tow truck driver called out, "Hey, farmer, want me to tow that SUV out of your rows for you?" I shook my head. "Leave it. I'll plant around it until she gets out of jail to move it." Herself. That broke the last bit of her composure. She screeched so loud the crows lifted off from the trees in the distance. The deputy guided her into the cruiser, shaking his head the whole way. As they pulled out, I climbed back on my tractor, dropped the plow, and went right back to planting. The soil split neatly, the seeds fell in place, and the sound of Karen's SUV sitting in the middle of the field was nothing but background noise now. By harvest, the crops would grow tall and green around the empty patch where her SUV once sat, a lasting reminder to the HOA queen who thought she could rule the farm. And the best part, everyone in town knew exactly who got planted that day. If you thought Karen couldn't get any crazier, imagine the look on her face when her own SUV became part of my cornfield. Out here, HOA rules don't stand a chance against common sense. If you loved watching this HOA Karen get exactly what she deserved, smash that like button so more people see it. Drop a comment below. What would you have done if Karen tried to tow your tractor during planting season? And don't forget to subscribe to HOA Karen Stories, because every week we bring you true tales of power-tripping Karens who think they run the world until reality plants them right back in their place. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next HOA showdown.